Welcome to Joe's Custom Classics. Here we discuss tonight live. We're going to discuss the customization, the restoration, and the preservation of anything four wheels and a motor pre 1970 and back, anything like that. And tonight I'm joined by a hot rod guru in my terms, a guy that I've known since about 2008. We were in the same car club. And if I ever get stuck, this is the man I call. He's a wealth of knowledge, Mr. Larry Kozlowski. Salute.
Hey, how we doing?
Larry, tell everybody. Well, if you're new to this channel, we do this every Sunday night. We're gonna do a hot rod chat. Tuesday night, I'm gonna do a live. I do a live like sewing, doing some upholstery. But tonight, Sunday night, 8 o'clock, we're gonna do Sunday night live, talking about hot rodding. Now, hot rodding, uh, I've known you since 2009. We were in a car club together back then. Boy, has a lot of time has passed since then, and a lot of cars I've had, and I know you've had since then. But tell me, the viewers, a little bit of your background. You've been building hot rods, second generation, correct?
Oh, absolutely. My dad was Snuffy out of Philly. He was one of the original uh, like performance shops down in that area, down in the West Philly area, along with all the other ones down there. Very popular back in the latter 50s and 60s and whatnot. He actually opened the shop in 48. So he kept the business going for the longest time into his 67 or something it was when he
So how
finally
old
closed
how
up.
old were you? Like how old were you
Uh,
back in, like,
well, I
I
was
don't know.
I was born in 52, so
So you're
I
about around the 1960. You were a little kid, but still,
yeah,
you know,
I was in the shop though when I was God. I tell you, I was. Uh, my mom took me to the races to watch to the Reading Fairgrounds, if you remember that place,
yeah,
to watch my dad run when I was 2.5 weeks old.
right.
And my fondest memories, not fondest, but I was about 6 or 7 years old watching Pop run, and uh, he took the feature, and I threw my ice cream cone up in the air on the grandstand, and
You-
somebody wore it.
You're
So
you're talking dirt track, right?
yeah, that was dirt track.
That was
Yeah,
dirt
he
track.
got involved in drag racing, and then my grandfather was one of the four guys who were in and started Maple Grove Raceway, which is now, I believe,
Yeah.
just become an IHRA track. So he was in that early on when it wasn't even a quarter-mile track, when it used to have the turnaround loop down by Hoffman's Junkyard.
Now,
So that
yeah.
goes back a lot.
No,
And
I mean, I've been to Maple Grove Raceway a couple years ago, but a lot of the racetracks in, like, English Town and Island Drag, and all the local drag
yeah,
racing tracks are pretty much closing. I don't know. The neighbors just complain about the noise. I don't
there's
know.
development.
Yeah,
Fortunately, we still have what's the my brain's going now. The track up by Elysburg, New Media. New
yeah,
Media is a good track. Beaver Springs, the
yeah,
nostalgia drags is always
yeah.
cool.
Now, now,
Racing is so closely connected with hot rodding. There really is no break between the two.
now, now,
There.
everybody, people tuning in, we're in the Northeast, and I can tell you I'm in the Northeast because I just shoveled 6, 7 inches of snow off my driveway today, and I didn't. It sucked pretty much. Um, Now, being winter time, most of the being in the Northeast in the wintertime, most of the guys, we put our cars in the garage and put them away for the winter. But this is my busy time for upholstery, is because nobody wants the
Sure,
car tore apart when it's nice out. So
sure.
I'm pretty busy this time of year. Um, let's go through. Uh, Boy, a lot is, like I said, a lot has changed just since 2008 when we were in the car club.
Mhm.
But you've I'm gonna tell you just one thing I remember from back then to knowing you over the years was, and what I admired a lot about the cars that you made, because it's rubbed off on me. I always liked your builds because they were a traditional hot rod,
Exactly.
and I love going and see other builders that first of all know what to build, and I like to see traditional hot rods, the parts, the design, everything that they would build a car like period correct back in the 60s. And you've always amazed me with that knowledge. You've built some really cool cars over the years. What was some of your favorites? I mean, I saw
Yeah.
many of them, but how many
Well,
cars? First of all, how many cars have you built? And let's say with your father since the 50s. I mean,
I'd probably say maybe 45, 50.
yeah.
No,
Now that's from
yeah,
scratch.
yeah, for scratch builds, and
That's
then
uh,
played with parts of other ones, and chassis that went out, and uh, just metal work and what have you. It's a lot of them. My dad's shop. I grew up there. My dad gave me a '39 Ford two door to play with when I was probably 13 years old or so. We dug it out of a bank down in Philly. If you remember, they used to bury cars on the bank of the Schuylkill down there and cover them with coal dirt to stop the erosion. Like, try that today with the EPA and things.
uh,
But they cover them with coal dirt and everything. And my dad acquired from me from a fellow by the name of Eddie Arnold, or Arnold's Eddie, one way or the other. He acquired this '39 Ford two door for me, and he says you can have it if you can dig it out. So my friends, I had about a dozen of my friends, and every day after school we'd be down on that bank digging coal dirt out. And we finally freed this thing up. And true to fashion, I was expecting a rust bucket. When we pulled it out, it was perfectly preserved. If I had that car today, I would, just be beyond belief. It was perfect. We pulled it out. It had the 39 top loader in yet it, and the engine was lock solid, which was probably why it was dumped in there. But we took that car back, and back then I had this real hot one on El Matador, if you remember that car, famous custom from that era, from the early Rod and Custom when they just changed over to a full size mag. Uh, I think it was Cushionberry built the El Matador, this candy apple red 40 Ford coupe, but the two door was close enough. So I did my first top chop on that car and pretty much ruined it, but we got it sorted out after a while. The guys at the shop would help me. And the cool thing was, everybody always complaining. I have a love of small block Chevys. It's not because they're easy or anything else. I just love small block Chevys. And the that was because in the late '50s, early '60s, everybody who could get their hands on one wanted one because it was cheap, way more power than you could make out of a flatty back then. So there was flatheads laying everywhere. They laid on a pile in back of the shop. So I just went out and picked out a nice 59 AB with some aluminum heads and a 2.2 or 3.2 intake or something. It was all free parts. So that was my indoctrination into flatheads. My dad was the best flathead builder I ever met until he discovered 409s, and then there was no
yeah,
hope. So,
yeah. I mean, I had two flatheads. My 47 had a flathead, but you're
yeah,
pushing max horsepower, 93 horsepower. I
yeah.
mean,
Well, you can get 175, 200 out of them
yeah.
if you.
I mean, stock.
But
I mean, you're pushing
it's
this. You're
a
not.
stock. Yeah,
Yeah,
about 100 horses with a Merc
yeah.
crank. Yeah, and you're looking at a 100 horse motor. It's got torque out the ass, but you're looking at a 100 horse motor. It's still not that much whoop there. You drop a stock 283 in with
Right.
140 or 150 horses. It's like day and night,
That's
and
what I did. I did that with the 47 or my 47. If you remember,
yeah, yeah. I
I
remember we went through that.
I drove down to Atlantic City to pick up a 283. I think it was a couple $100. Came
Yeah.
back and put that in. I was I was more nimble. I'm gonna say back then. I mean, uh,
Mm.
but I mean, you're just slightly older than me, but I feel the pain. Um, yeah, I so when did like the 327s and when did
Uh,
all that fade out and everybody went to small block Chevy 350s and I mean,
uh, well, well, the I don't think they ever faded out. 283s are still popular. I know
right,
in my shop, my favorite combination, I don't have it in mine, and it was a big mistake. I was gonna in my 31 Vic Roadster that I have now, I was going to put a 40 Ford rear with a 39 to 78 case box, and an adapter onto a 283. That is still my favorite. If you remember, and I don't know if Howie's on, but he would remember. I used to run a blue 31 Brookville Roadster, actually
yeah,
30 Brookville Roadster, and I had that powertrain combination in there. And I remember very well giving Jerry an eye opener on the streets of Wildwood one night with
yeah.
that little Chevy. And he was running a 390 Cadillac with six T's on, and I trimmed him good with a 283 with trips on, and it had some motor work done to it, but it was fast. The only thing is with the 39 box, you have to know how to drive them. My dad and the guys who hung at the shop down there taught me very early on to how to drive one. And the way you drive one is people always saying, "Oh, you'll just rip that old Ford Trans to pieces." Actually, they were using them in drag cars well into the early '60s. Until they got into the in-out box and things, but you just have to take the slack out of them before you nail it. So you can't sidestep the clutch like you can on Muncie or something. You
Hmm.
need to take the slack out and then get on them. And if you do that, the box stays together. If you look at any of the early rails, the chassis research 110 inches or something like that, they were all they used to run the Ford boxes in back of Chrysler Hemis, and they would work quite well. And they use a 9 inch, and you put a piece of 1/4 inch plate over just to protect the family jewels, and they that worked really well. So you can run those 39 boxes. They're getting really rare though. It's hard to find a 39 box, and even harder to find a Cad LaSalle. So
I Yeah, I had a
yeah, but
39. I had a 39 top loader in my Ford. My 47
yep,
had it. Yeah,
yeah.
because that was
Most of them aren't 39 boxes. As long as you have if you look on your your shift plate there, it should say 2002 is the part number for the double detente shifter. And all that does is it keeps you from putting it in two gears at once. So other than that, the boxes are pretty much the same from 37 on up. Good gears are in the pickup boxes from like uh, 42 to 48 pickups. They used that transmission, and that was an open drive shaft box there, but they had really nice gears. Quality was way better after the war. So they must have done some development during the war. Neat.
a lot of the cars like the Cadillacs had the Stewart tank motor transmission from the tank. That big caddy I worked on. That was a
Yeah.
um. So let me ask you where we sourcing parts like this anymore? I mean, because
Well,
the junkyards are
oh, that's over and done with. The ham is always a good source of parts. I
yeah.
I have pretty much convinced anything you want is available on the ham if you put up an inquiry. It might not be for sale, but if you put up a parts wanted, I get 4 or 5 guys to give me a line every time, no matter what I want. Also, believe it or not, tons of that stuff turns up on Facebook Marketplace. It is,
Yeah.
well,
The
you
problem
got to
with
know what you're looking for, though.
that is a lot of people rip you off. So if you
No,
can't
yeah,
if you can't drive to pick it up, it's kind of
exactly.
I wouldn't do it. Uh,
Yeah, I look for a lot of stuff. I will sell them. I will buy off the ham. For some reason, the guys in the ham are really good about there. There's a lot of hot rod or honor there yet,
now,
and usually,
when you say ham, because
usually,
not everybody
yeah,
knows
no,
what that is. The hooky
okay,
ass
that's
message board. That's
a hooky ass message board. It's a website that you can join. Doesn't cost anything,
yeah.
and it is the bastion of early hot rodding, and anything on there is going to be early stuff, and it's going to be very knowledgeable people. The only thing I will
Yeah.
say, if you're new to it, it's good to kind of lurk for a while, join, and post up uh,
What you're
a
working
howdy
on.
when you get on. Yeah, and get acquainted thing, and then sit back and enjoy for a little bit because some people on there are really opinionated, and they've been
Well,
around a long time.
and that brings me to I want to ask you this because I'm a little bit younger than you, not
Mm,
much, but I have a lot of older friends. Not because I don't know, I like to get the knowledge from them.
mhm,
So I've always been like this, even since I was younger. I always had older friends, and I always hung around people that were knowledgeable. That's how you become smarter. So by saying that, though, I don't want to call it arrogance. I don't want to call it what's
mm,
going to happen. What's going to happen to our cars? What's going to happen to the classic car scene when the next generation comes? Because they're not going to have any idea of how to fix a flathead. They're not going to have any idea anything that we're talking about tonight.
mm,
And sometimes I hate there is interest because I go to a lot of car shows. I go to a lot of car shows, and there are interests, but what what's going to happen? Because the cars that we have, the cars that I have, are going to outlast anything on the road today because new cars are have a 5 to 8 year shelf life. So let's say my 56 olds I got is it's going to outlast me probably, unless I get hit with a meteor. But somebody's going to have to take this car one day. I mean, let's just say the
yeah,
next generation. How are they gonna have the relationship between the cars like we do with those cars? Like
yeah,
I think that's the whole key to it anyway, because uh, I grew up, when I was in high school, these are the cars, blah blah blah, that we drove. So there's a connection to it. So
mm,
I understand the tuner cars. And I understand, that because we used to buy these cars for. I listen. Just what you were saying. I got a car one time. A car wouldn't start. The lady said, if you can get it out of my driveway, it's yours. I mean, that's as
mm,
cheap as you're gonna get. But
mm.
we used to get these cars for $100, $200.
Oh, those days are over.
Well, but that's what I'm saying though. They were cheap, and we could
Mm.
fix them, and we drove them to death. Uh, so I guess I don't know the
I, I
prices.
I don't think it's a money thing. Here's my opinion on this one. The people today, young folks today, their first thing is there is one hell of a following on really young folks, just people coming into my shop who are 18, 20 years old who love these old things. They have a they have in their mind, they have an idea of what it was like in the 50s, and hot rodding for me in the 50s was not really the 50s. It was really the early 60s. I
Right.
think that was hot rodding's finest hour. Actually, right now, it's hot rodding's finest hours. There's more 32 Fords on the road now than there were in 1932.
Right.
And so hot rodding is alive and well. There's no doubt about it. We have a couple of things. One thing I seriously worry about, and SEMA helps us, and especially Equipment Manufacturers Association. If you belong to SEMA, you will know that they fight legislation all the time. Pennsylvania just once again, Senator Argel defeated a bill that would have made it illegal to change your exhaust in the state of Pennsylvania, and they kind of keep trying to sneak back in the back door. I know they were going after these kids with the can on the back of the Suzuki,
Yeah.
or whatever, but uh, it affects everybody. Okay, fortunately, a lot of the really dumb stuff has gone away, and we'll be able to keep these. They when they the legislation is one thing. The other thing is hot rods are not cheap to build. Anybody thinks they're going to build a traditional hot rod
Uh,
on the cheap has got to do cheap. I think the cheapest I have ever built anything was maybe about 5 or 6 grand, and that was using anything I found, drug home or whatever. You know what I mean?
yeah.
It was not any a show car by any means, and I think I threw a glass tea bucket body on it back when glass tea buckets were $250, which they're not anymore.
Oh.
But uh, you're gonna, I'd say probably it's going to take you, I don't know, you can swing by if you're building one yourself. Okay. I'd probably say you could build one for 10, 12. That is a decent car. Okay. If you're
Yeah.
building it yourself, building it in a shop, all bets are off because, it's especially, uh, it just gets expensive. You can go out and you can finance a new Toyota and put a set of rims on it with your girlfriend's tax check, and you're cool to drive. You know what I mean? You can finance that, and all you got to do is make sure you pay the payments. You can't do that with a hot rod. Also, you can go get that new Toyota, and you can drive it in 2 days from now. You cannot do that with a rod. It takes the stick to itiveness of a year or two to get one on the road. It really does.
Well,
And
in the state of Pennsylvania, I remember years ago, you know what I'm talking about. We had to go get hot rod plates. I mean,
yeah.
I think it's easier today than it was 15 years ago. To
Oh, absolutely. That came about because Governor Rendell
I was just
was
gonna
a rodder.
I was just gonna say that
Yeah,
that's why we don't need fenders on our cars in Pennsylvania.
exactly. Yeah, uh Governor Rendell had a 3440, wanted to take the fenders off. Found out in Pennsylvania you can't take the fenders off, which I'm sure he knew. So he just changed the law. And what he did was he instituted the SEMA guidelines, which now a lot of states have. And that's why we can get SR titles, the street rod titles. I really worry about people who tell me, well, I just threw a set of old plates on and I drive it.
Yeah,
That's all well and good until you hit some minivan with
yeah.
some soccer mom in it, and you'll lose everything you own. So what you
Well,
got to do is you just send for the SR plates. They're easy to get.
well, one thing real quick, you just touched on something because I run into people that have been, I don't know, they've been driving old cars. They're old. They're driving their old cars at these car shows, and they don't have like a Haggerty Grundy insurance, which is insane to me. Uh,
Yeah.
because you don't want to put these old cars on your State Farm insurance.
Right. Yeah.
So, you know,
Rose is bumping in here. She had her opinion. So
that's fine. Yeah,
yeah.
I because I run into this a lot. I have a lot of cars. I have a lot of old cars, and I built 11 cars since I've been living here. I built 11 cars in this little garage, and just like
Mhm.
you, I like to be self-contained. I like to do everything I can without outsourcing anything. That's why years ago, I started to do my own upholstery because well, a lot of the shops around here closed. Uh, but other than machine shop work, I do everything right here in this little
Mhm.
garage, and that's just how it's going to be. Because I don't know if I'm stubborn like that, or I'm just I just like to do everything myself. So, which you do too. I mean, and another thing, I want to tell you what you do
I'm
that
more
I
of a
did.
fabricator.
You're a fabricator, and I have a problem just like you do, where my cars will get 90% done, and then I got to I got to start something else, and that is a problem. But I'm trying not to do that. I'm trying to finish in my head where I want to go with the two
Yeah,
cars I got right now. I'm building, but is it, you call that, what do you call it, a disease or a sickness? But
yeah, yeah.
I like to build them. I like to build them. I'm going to say a little bit more than I like to drive 'em. I rather build cars.
Yeah,
So
it's the fun is in the building. I'll tell you, half the fun is chasing the parts. You get the
chasing the
parts.
parts.
Yep. You
Uh,
get you get them that far, you know. The only thing is now that I've gotten a little older, I need to take one more like my idea of a good time is the fall wildwood run. I think you were down there with us once or twice, you know,
um,
uh to the
on the
fall run.
boardwalk, you get to drive on the
Yeah, the
boardwalk.
boardwalk
Yeah,
run. Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a fun weekend. It's just fun because you go from party to party underneath the hotels. You know what I mean? It's the show's not even the fun part because you go to the Fall Wildwood Run. It used to be called the Boardwalk Nationals. It's not
yeah.
anymore. But they uh, you go there and
What was the
uh,
hotel?
the American Safari,
American Safari. Yes.
right, the
That
first
that
hotel in the Crest.
yes, yes. That's all over YouTube. If you
Yeah.
because we're not the only ones that go down there. I mean, there's a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
people go down there and they record. It's pretty
Oh yeah.
cool.
Yeah, same place the Trog is held. Everybody goes to the Trog, you know, and the race of gentlemen, and that's 2 weeks after the fall run. But I keep telling my wife I want to do one more run to Wildwood. So you know, and
Yeah.
I'll be 74 in a couple of months. So you know, I'm getting there. So I better do it
Well,
soon.
as long as you can hit the brake and hit the gas, I guess you're
Yeah,
okay. And see, you can still see.
yeah.
Um,
Well, the funny part is on my Vic Roadster, I'm running four-wheel power discs on that, and the reason I'm running the four-wheel power discs is because when you get a little older and you're diabetic, your
yeah,
feet aren't so good, so
yeah.
you can't stop anymore with a set of 44 brakes. So,
Well,
but I've got them hidden well.
I I grew up with no power brakes. My first cars that I had, or I had
Mhm.
an old truck too at one time when I was first starting to drive, and we had to pump the the crap out of the brakes to stop. And the problem is, to this day, when I drive my 2011 truck, I still pump the brakes. I don't care what.
Yeah,
It's stuck in my
yeah,
DNA.
yeah. You don't let the ABS do it for you.
No, I pump. I have to pump the brakes. I'm used to drum brakes with
Yeah.
no power assist.
Yeah, yeah, but hot rods. Hot rods they get driven. They don't get driven the same as like a road racing car. So the disc brakes really don't mean that much. The benefit of the disc is like on the Vicky is that you don't have to press as hard on the pedal. It's then the manual brakes.
Yeah.
Yeah, when I was
Well,
younger, it didn't matter to me. Now it's not so much because sometimes my feet bother me. So I've hidden them well. You don't even know that car has disc brakes on it, and
but
just under some.
that's a light car.
It is.
The
It
power to
is.
weight, the power to weight ratio on that is you know
Yeah, I'm running bias ply tires on that thing. What can you possibly stop?
yeah.
It's
Now
just.
now you made that custom roof for that too. Now, where did you
Mm,
come up with that? Because I've seen that chopped removable metal roof on a couple of your cars, and that is just an
oh yeah.
awesome.
Well, it used to be the old Carson tops they built back in the 50s. That was actually started in the 40s. The Carson shop out in California uh, was building liftoff roofs for guys like Gary Cooper and Mae West and things. She had a Carson topped Auburn, and they made them because they were so much nicer than the rag tops, and you could really get a nice style on them. And the Carson shop was exceptional at doing that back in the 40s. In the 50s, it carried on. If you ever picked up an original Carson top, though, a real one, it takes like six guys and two boys helping to get it off of there. They are heavy. So
Now you make them out of aluminum though. I think,
I,
right?
I make
Yeah,
mine out of
yeah,
aluminum. The last one I had, I generally use I TIG up the bands for it, the structure of it. I just make cardboard templates for the patterns to so I can see that it looks the way I want it to look, and then I make the structure inside with 1 inch by 1/8 aluminum, and then over that is 032, and it's just riveted on with flush rivets, aircraft rivets. You just get
yeah.
those from like you know there's a lot of places. The yard shop is the best one, sells aircraft supplies. And the last one I built, it wasn't for one of my cars, it was for another car. It weighed 12 pounds without the when I sent it out to have the hearts cloth put on it. That weighed 12 pounds. I built one for that 31 Coopster that was running around for a while. Uh, that purple one. Uh, I think it's up near Allentown somewhere now. But that one there, the fellow who owned it found out what it cost to have the hearts cloth stitched, and he shot it with bed liner. So it was this ripple black thing. It actually didn't look that bad. And that one was a little heavier just because he had about an 1/8 inch of bed liner on the whole thing. But they're easy. You can take the roof off. They're nice because what's nice about them is rather than a rag top than a real rag top is they're not folding, but like we go down the shore, like we were just talking about there, you can take one and throw it on the spare bed there because they only weigh 15, 18 pounds, something like that,
Yeah.
You can just pick it up and carry it in the room and lay it on the extra bed or something. And that works really nice. You can
Well,
run around as a roadster.
they don't flap either and make noise and
No, they
yeah,
don't. They don't
yeah.
flap. And the other thing is I've become notorious for using hemp carpet padding. The uh, it's a little more than 3/8 of an inch thick. It's gray and it's made out of like hemp wool.
Yeah.
And you get it at a carpet shop. They use it underneath commercial carpets. If you know somebody who's a carpet layer, there's always pieces left over on every job. If not, it's cheap to buy. And if you line them with that, they get extremely quiet, exactly
Oh,
like a hard top.
really?
And the other thing is I know if you remember that red 38 Roadster I was running around with in the
Yes.
club for a while, that one there, I didn't have the top lined on that for a while. Like everything else, I didn't get it finished right away. And we used to, if you were in the sun and heading down, like we went down to York one year, and it was like 180 in the shade out. I mean, and it was hot inside that car. Yeah, I lined that thing and it was perfect. I mean, no problem at all.
Now,
And then you can put a regular headliner in if you want to too.
now you wouldn't even consider like I use Dynomat for under the
Yeah,
floor, but you couldn't put
yeah.
that'd be too heavy then. Yeah.
That'd be heavy. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. That other stuff is so light. And the really cool part, I don't know if you remember that 29 with a 27 tail on. It went to a fellow over in uh, uh, over like Robisonia Way or something.
Blue
People
one.
across the country don't know where these are, but
Yeah.
it went to a local guy around here. But that one there, I used the specially power windows. Their wiper kit, the one that uses the Jaguar components. and the motor mounts like in the back underneath your package shelf, and
Right.
you just have a piece of 3/8 inch tubing like gas line that you can run up to your wipers, and then the wipers drive off of that. So the motor drive and everything is under the back of the car, and you can lace that through your roof then, and then you just spin the coupling off when you take the roof off. And
Like,
other than that,
yeah,
you've got good wipers, which
that's
is
how.
something most rods don't have. But
Yeah, yeah. No, they don't have wipers. Like even the vacuum ones, they don't work.
you get really good wipers. You get Jaguar wipers that way, and they run really smooth and quiet, and they're really nice. They do a great job. But you can do that with one of those roofs. So I like that. And then I always just use a white oak header over the windshield. And if you slot that and use a piece of felt from a window channel, that you can just buy from for a window channel. You use that over the windshield. It not only protects your glass, but makes a really nice seal. It has that fuzzy stuff inside, and it makes a really nice seal so that you don't get water and things coming up underneath your windshield. When you're in the rain.
Uh,
And
Unfortunately, yeah, I try not to drive in the rain, but I got caught a couple times this summer, and I have no wipers, or I have wipers. I just never they're vacuum. I didn't hook them up, and I I don't know. That's a sketchy situation.
Yeah,
Um,
we came back from Wildwood one year. Rose and I, my wife and I went. We came back, and I had a blue roadster. I had no top on it. I didn't have the roof made yet, and I had no wipers on it. And we got caught. We made it as far up as Philly, coming back from Wildwood. Still had an hour to go, and it came down. It unloosed. I think there was six of us: Yankee Dave and Jerry
mhm.
and a few other people, all running roasters with no roofs. Nobody had a roof. So we pulled in underneath this gas station to get a thing, and the guy said he hadn't had a customer all morning. Just leave him set. The lot in the gas station filled up instantly. It was like people looking at a car show. So that was pretty much fun. But we've been soaked a few times. If you keep most of the time in a roadster, people who haven't driven a roadster a lot, most of the time you will find if you keep it up to about 50 or so, the water will go right back over your head. You'll never get wet. It stays pretty nice. Just
I remember a couple guys drove their roadsters all the way out to Las Vegas.
oh yeah,
And they're no longer with us, but boy, that's a
yeah.
heck of a trip.
Well, look, when Danny and Phil, who are neither of those guys are with us anymore. Remember when they used to make the Florida run every year?
Yeah,
Yeah. The
yeah,
sad part, for everybody out there who's maybe thinking about like, well, I'll build my car next year, uh, just like a really dumb story. I had a friend of mine, and we had built him a really neat T. And he moved down to Sanibel Island in Florida. And, like a lot of older people do. And for about 10 years, he used to send me a message or call me up or who knows what each year, say, come on down. I got plenty of room, and we'll drive across the peninsula and go to the turkey run, the Thanksgiving run in Florida. And every year I put off having my own car done and whatnot. And then one day his wife sent me a message that Don wasn't with us anymore. So I never got to do the turkey run. So,
yeah.
now's the time. Build one, to hell with
Well,
it.
I agree with that 100% because you can't put off anymore. Or I think what's that saying? Youth is wasted on the young, right? So uh, it's you don't realize how you don't have a lot of time, and it's go out and get that project going. Don't wait. I mean,
Yeah.
enjoy it because it goes quick. I mean, and
Yeah.
it's sad. Just I don't want to be morbid about it, but just the people
Yeah, sure.
the people that we know from years ago that are no longer with us, and it's sad.
Yeah.
But
This is this is the truth. So you got to get out there and you got to do it. The other thing, if I'm going to give anybody a piece of advice, I'd say, you know, stop reading the goddamn hot rod books. Those things are unrealistic. Build what you can build. There's nothing the matter you don't need 6.2s on a L79 to have a cool hot rod. You can do anything. And same thing, like people, you can buy right now. Model A's are extremely popular. I chase my body out of Connecticut, which is a whole other
Yeah.
funny story. But Model A's are extremely popular. You can find them, but they're not cheap. You can find my 38, that red uh, roadster pickup that I run around in for a while there. That thing there, I think I paid $50 for that body,
I
and it was like
I
it was.
remember I remember you, correct me if I'm wrong. You said you were going to pick up a body. I don't know. I forget what car it was, but you had to go out to Detroit. Did you
Yeah,
just
yeah.
you just got in
That
a
was
truck?
that was that 29 that I said I put the T back on.
Yeah.
And I had a 27 back on a 29 cowl and doors. 29 doors are the same, but the as 27 doors. But from the back on, I never had the whole body. I had part of the body, and that was an adventure too.
Yeah, but you
But
drove. You just drove out now from here to Detroit or whatever. Is
yeah,
That's an 8 hour, 10 hour. How long did it
about
take to
10
work
hours.
one way?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. We drove out, and on the way back, I had a new Ford F one
white
fifty.
one.
Yeah, the white one, and that son of a bitch lost a sensor, the throttle position sensor, and gave me trouble all the way back. I had the hardest time, and I got I got pulled over for
You
speeding,
you
and my
wait a
wife
minute.
talked. My
Hold on.
wife, imagine that,
Uh,
yeah,
you
and
got
then
pulled over for mistaken identity. Weren't they going to
yeah,
shoot you?
yeah, yeah, yeah. They pulled me over. The same pickup. I had this new Ford pickup, and somebody stole one in like North Carolina or something. It had the same plate number as my Pennsylvania plates, and all of a sudden, like cops come from like three different directions and had me out and up against the tailgate, and I'm like, whoa. I
They
mean, I have a history of police activity, but it's like
didn't. Yeah, I remember that. I remember you telling me that was funny. Yeah.
yeah, but
Ah,
we went out, and I never had the whole body, but I got most of the body. So I brought it back, and then I acquired from somewhere, who knows where, a tail from a 27, probably a roadster, might have been a coupe, but it was I just blended them together and made some parts to make them fit, and that was pretty cool. And it that was a really neat car. That was the one I wish I would have kind of kept. Believe it
yeah.
or not, it
So
was really
so
neat.
so out of all the cars that well, first of all, I remember the Full House Roadster. You sent me pictures of that.
Oh
What
yeah.
what car do you think that you should have built, or you should have bought, or you should have kept? I mean,
Yeah, it
what is
should have
the
kept. I kind of miss, every once in a while, I kind of miss my blue roadster, the Brookville. Even though it wasn't a real A, it was a Brookville roadster, the steel body. And that was pretty neat. That's in Texas now. Oddly enough, I have except for that 29 with the 27 tail, which I don't know what happened to it. It disappeared off the face of the earth. Most of the cars I built, I know where they're at, or I see the guys every once in a while, or I see them online. They'll show up, on the Ham or something. So they're pretty cool there. But I think the Brookville was pretty cool, only because it had the right drivetrain. That 283, and I had the 358s in the 40 Ford rear, and the 39 box with the Ford gears in, not the CADS gears. That was a really nice one. And that's the one I wish I would have kept. And, is one of those things. The
well?
one,
Go ahead. I just wanted to say that you know there were some cars that I thought were too much back 20 years ago that I always wanted.
Mhm.
And then the more I saved up to buy them, they just raised the price. And I could, so now it's like, oh man, just for junk, they want 25,000 and it's all rusted out. I mean, the prices, I I find that you could buy the whole car cheaper than you can buy the parts now. I mean, just prices for parts and stuff, are just through the roof. Like my turn signals on the Charger, uh, they're $500. I lost you. I don't hear you. I lost your sound.
Am I
There you
back?
go. There you go.
Okay, yeah. I don't know what happened there. It went on mute. I didn't even touch a damn thing. Yeah, the thing of it is that you always could buy a finished car. The problem of it is you if 99 unless the car is a big dollar car, okay. I'm seeing Model A's, you can get for 40,000, you know what I mean? They're nice cars and they're well built, okay. I'm seeing Model A's you can buy for 20,000 and it scares the hell out of me. I just had a buddy of mine bring me one up. He couldn't steer his car when we bought a 27 Roadster,
Yeah.
and he brought it up, and you know who I'm talking about. And he brought this lime green sensation up, and it was when he went around a turn, you could not steer it because they had the tie rods so close to the frame, and there it was a major reconstruction on that front end to get that thing so it wasn't like just like fix some parts or something. I've seen cars with like the stupidest brake systems in them. You have
Yeah.
to always, if you're going to buy one, it's going to be cheap enough online. Just make sure that you have what it takes to fix what's the matter with it, because I can guarantee you somebody's having problems with that car. You
Well,
know,
I just for a little knowledge here. I know you don't really go to car shows anymore.
mm,
Uh, and I know why you don't. So, but let me explain to you why I go because I I like looking at the cars, okay, but I like talking to the people. I like talking to the guys that bought these cars and they bought them like before they went to Vietnam. They bought the cars.
yeah,
There's a story behind them because a lot of like the hot rods, like you said, I can tell right away when you walk up to this beautiful roadster and I start asking questions about it, and the owner doesn't know anything about what I'm asking because they bought the car. They don't know nothing about it.
there's
So
nothing the matter with that.
which is okay. At least they have a passion for the sport, or let's say the sport.
Sure.
But you know, it's like anything else. It's what you like, and I guess not so much if you got money. I guess Larry. I guess you could buy anything you want and it
Yeah.
wouldn't matter. But me and you and a lot of people like us, we have a very tight budget to build anything, and this is
Mhm.
what this channel is about basically. Because if we had money, then you can just go buy what you want. You can
Sure.
buy a 5 window 32 if you want, and
Yeah.
have somebody fix it for you. But it's
Yeah,
all
and
good.
there's nothing the matter with that. I mean, I wouldn't want some guy who was trained as a brain surgeon. He may not be able to work on his car, but he could sure work on me, and I'd be happy. You know what I mean? So everybody has
well,
their spot. You know what I'm talking
well,
about?
yeah. I mean, I could trade upholstery for brain surgery. That might be a good. I might have to use
Yeah,
that.
I know. Yeah, but
Let me do the upholstery first, though, just in
yeah, just
case.
in case.
You
Yeah.
know.
I'd be worried if he wanted it done first. So like
Right. Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Cool,
there's
man.
just so much cool stuff out there. There's what I'm saying is there's like some really cool cars can be had. My idea, I'll tell you one of the most beautiful vehicles I've ever owned, and this is another one high on my list, When I was in high school, I had a 34 Dodge pickup. The early Mopars, which do not get uh, enough credit, have beautiful, beautiful lines. I mean, their body lines are fabulous. Stance is everything. You can take a car built out of cheap junk, and if the stance is right, it will look good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, uh, if you have a bad stance on your car, early Mopars had beautiful body lines. The pickups were gorgeous. I mean, they quite possibly have the best body lines of any of the early 30s pickups, and they're good. I saw a while back. I built an international for a guy. It was like a I forgot what year. It was 30 something international. And the body lines on that were just beautiful. You were in the shop a few weeks ago or a week ago or something, and you saw that Pierce Arrow that's in there. And we're running Model A doors on it, 28, 29 doors on a Pierce Arrow cow, and the rest of it's homemade. And the body lines are really good. It looks
Yeah.
great, but everything's where it needs to be,
Yeah.
and that's the whole thing of it.
And you're very good at that because you can just see uh somebody just builds their 32 roadster and it just doesn't sit right. The motor's too far forward, or they got the suspension messed up. But yeah,
Yeah,
there's a lot of
that's why I always hated the graffiti coupe. The radiator is way too low. Your radiator rods head downhill in that car. It
yeah.
it I've had a chance to check it out several times already, and
Yeah.
it bothers me every time. It's actually a piece
Now
of junk.
now this came up. Well, I don't want to dwell on this, but this came up that the 32 Milner's car uh
Yeah,
was a 327. It wasn't a 283.
yeah, it's 327.
Right. Right. But they overlaid the sound of the motor, that was all fake in the movie.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
Foley
you
artists.
saw it. You saw it.
Yeah,
It was built on a low budget just for the movie. It was a
it
movie car.
is pretty much a piece of crap, to be honest
Piece of
with you.
crap, but a lot of people
Yeah.
don't.
Ha-
Now,
Did Did you ever have a chance to see everybody knows what the cookie car is from 77 Sunset Strip,
yeah,
Norm Grabowski's roadster.
yeah.
If you ever saw the chassis on that thing, now it's been all done over. I think Three Dog has it now, if I'm not mistaken. But the so it's right in Boyertown near us, I believe. And the frame on that thing, it looked like it was done with a one of those 110 Craftsman welders, with stick welders, and
Flux
it was
core.
just yeah, flux core, yeah,
It was a
it
flux
was
core.
hard. It was horrible. There was like no nice TIG or anything on that, and the MIG welds can be just fine. So can stick welds. Stick welds can be beautiful if they're done well, but the uh, this thing was horrible back then. Cars were not. People used to think that cars uh, were like pieces of glowing art back then. Cars are much, much, much better today. I mean, far, far better. We would not drive stuff that was commonplace back then. I remember when guys were torching springs left and right, if you remember that. You reach yeah, reach up underneath, heat the spring red hot till it lowered down to where you wanted it and let it cool. And that's like an invitation to kill yourself. And if
Yeah.
you remember, you remember back in the late '60s when everybody was trying to imitate the gassers, so they would put like 8-inch long shackles on the back of their '55 Ford, and there was all kinds of crazy stuff. You just
Well,
try to do stuff you're not going to kill
I
yourself with.
just, I just, I just talked about that when I put my new shocks on my Charger. We used to go to Pep Boys and get the air shocks and
Mm,
jack the back of the
yeah,
car and crank the torsion bars up.
yeah.
But
Yeah, it's because the gassers thought they doing better by running high. They thought they'd get better weight transfer. Then they found out that didn't work, so they went back down to getting low. It
yeah,
was
well,
race technology again.
well, if you're going in a straight line, it's different than trying to
Yeah,
turn. So That's
A lot of them weren't even going in a straight line well.
no,
Pretty
no.
pretty neat stuff though. But like right now, hot rodding is alive and well. I see more there's more rods showing up. You can't believe now. I live in northeastern Pennsylvania. Uh the there is I see more rods out in the road on a nice day than I ever saw before. People are actually getting out and
Well,
driving them.
well, listen. I remember when I was a kid, and this happened to me. We got pulled over. My buddy had a souped up. He had a souped up Camaro, 60,
Mm,
67, 68 Camaro, and back then you couldn't have the tires sticking out past the fenders.
yeah,
You
still
couldn't
cool.
have loud exhaust or anything. And I remember the cop. He went back to the rear fender and he hocked a loogie on the fender. And he said, "If my spit hits your tire, you're getting a ticket."
I got
So they used to harass the crap out of us. But
yeah,
I still say I have the land speed record here in my town. I was over 100 miles an hour in a 25 zone, which I don't recommend. There was no cars on the road back then.
yeah,
And I look back today on when we came home that one night, and man, I was flying, and no seat belts, drum
yeah,
brakes. Man, I was, and those are good times. But
yeah. I
listen,
got I got arrested the first time on the back of a 29 Ford two door. A buddy of mine had a hot rod of 29 Ford two door, and we had a stolen. People used to hang their laundry out. Then a wash line was out, and we stole we stole a wash line at Tropical Treat, and we were going down High Street in Pottstown, and I was on a skateboard on the back of a wash line on the back of this 29 Ford, and I got busted. And it was they got us, and the cop's name was Dick Tracy. That was his real name. And
really,
it's they took me down to the police station, made me sit there for a while. They were pretty cool. Other than that, they was,
well, um, I want to wrap it up, and I just wanted to say a couple things that enjoy having you on. We're gonna do this more because there's so much knowledge in your head that we have to tap. And uh, if I could, boy, there's so much to talk about. But appreciate having you on, and we're gonna do this Sunday nights. I mean, you're welcome to come on anytime. And
Oh, sounds good. I had fun.
I had a lot of fun, and I hope everybody else out there enjoyed it. And like and subscribe to the channel. And we are gonna come back every Sunday night at 8 o'clock and talk hot rods and customs, classics, the past. I had a good time. Larry, thanks for coming on. I will be in touch with you. And you have a good night. And I'll talk to you before Christmas because it's what's next week, right? Week.
That's right.
Wow. See, time's flying. We got another week. All righty. Thanks. Thank you,
See you later.
everybody. Thank you. Good night.